Already a history-making season for the Augsburg Auggies, and today they can take it into the stratosphere as they have a chance at the MIAC Championship facing off with the juggernaut that is St. Thomas. Charlie Beatty here along with Jason Duro. And Jason, this is the first of 4 events today that make this maybe one of the most interesting, if not biggest, sports days in Augsburg history. Women's basketball at 3. You got women's hockey in an hour. You've got men's hockey and men's basketball tonight. Both the basketball games are championship games. Both the hockey games are semifinals, and that's not all. There's wrestling, there's track and field, there's everything going on today. But just these 4 team sports in the winter with an absolutely monstrous day, and it starts today with a game that I don't know if a lot of people dreamed of maybe 5 years ago for Augsburg women's basketball. Very much a reality now. This team has done amazing things this year, and they have a chance to put a real capper on it today because a victory against this St. Thomas team that's won 73 straight would be another amazing feat for this team.
It's crazy, too, because I don't want to say that this Augsburg women's basketball team came out of nowhere, but they were 500 last year. They were a team that just missed the MIAC playoffs, and now here they are 22-4, 16-2 in MIAC play. Their only 2 losses coming at the hands of this St. Thomas team that they're about to face off with for a 3rd time this year, and they're ranked in the top 25 in the nation in D3 basketball. So this program has catapulted over the last year into an echelon that they haven't been in previously.
And if you were unable to join us on Thursday night, these 2 teams have been the clear-cut number 1 and number 2 in the conference all season long. Bethel was a very strong number 3, and the Auggies were fairly certain when Tuesday started that they'd have to go through Bethel to get to this game. That became a reality. That was a tough game on Thursday night. The Auggies had to overcome the loss of 3 players to foul outs late in the game. They got some big shots, and they got a huge game from Tamira McLemore with a season-high 33 points. Among the many things that probably have to go right for Augsburg today, McLemore having a huge game is certainly one of them.
And she did that the last time these 2 teams squared off here with 20-plus points. Came alive early in the 3rd quarter when the Augsburg team was really kind of reeling at that point. They were somewhat falling apart, and she tied things back together in that 3rd quarter, gave them a shot late in the game, and St. Thomas was just too good. We'll see if things maybe fall the Auggies' way this time.
And both the games these teams played this year, 15-point losses, but very different games. The first one at Augsburg back on January the 12th, 49-34 St. Thomas, a day when the Auggies defensively did some amazing things. They held Hannah Spalding down. Nobody for St. Thomas had more than 11 points. Held them without a good shooting day from the outside, which we know St. Thomas is a good outside shooting team, as is Augsburg. But they could never get the offense going because of the St. Thomas pressure. Then you get to the second game. They did get a little more offense going, although most of it came more in the second half, really, than in the first. But the problem was they could not contain Spalding that day. She was absolutely electric. 32 points, 21 rebounds. That cannot happen again.
And that's what makes this 3rd matchup between these 2 even more intriguing, is Ted Reverso has had the opportunity to try 2 different strategies. In that first game, it was pack it in, really stop Spalding, hold her to 10 points, and make St. Thomas beat you from deep, which eventually they did, but really they beat you defensively, holding the Auggies to 34 points in that matchup. The second game, you let things loose a little bit more, but that meant that Spalding was great inside, posting over 30 points and over 20 rebounds. Now, what do? Do you go somewhere in between on both of those strategies? Do you lean in heavy on one side or the other? And I'll be interested to see what Ted Reverso decides to do.
There's a lot of interesting undercurrents to this game. Maybe the most is the fact that it's generally believed that both of these teams are going to the NCAA tournament. The MIAC has been such a strong league over the years, had 3 teams in it last year. Now, there's no guarantees. Probably is for St. Thomas. Augsburg would certainly feel a little bit more uncomfortable if they did not win this game, but their resume is so strong. Even without a win today, they're likely to go. Doesn't mean you take the day off, doesn't mean you relax, but it does mean maybe you can play a little bit more free.
Yep.
And we're talking about things that need to go right for Augsburg. That's another one. They need to be able to play loose in a game like this. All indications today that they will.
Yeah, and I think that's perhaps your only way that you get St. Thomas out of sorts. This is a team that is so composed. They're just a well-built machine that's engineered to produce wins. And I think you want to get them uncomfortable in this game. Usually Hannah Spalding, Lucia Renikoff, Kaya Porter, they're all just so under control. And you want to get them frustrated. We saw that against Bethel earlier this week with players like Tate Anderson and Hannah Johnson, who normally are just like these St. Thomas Stars who are very cool and collected, and Augsburg frustrated the heck out of them.
And we don't want to David versus Goliath this thing too much, but the fact of the matter is St. Thomas is looking for its 8th conference tournament title in a row. Augsburg has 2 playoff victories to its credit in school history, the second one coming just Thursday night. So this is a team that is supposed to be here versus a school that, historically speaking, is not supposed to be here. That is not the case this year. The Auggies, of course, certainly deserve to be in this game, but this is such an interesting dichotomy of teams. The national powerhouse team that's used to the Sweet 16, used to Final Four, St. Thomas, versus an emerging threat here in the MIAC. And Ted Reverso, of course, is the link between the two programs, and he's doing wonderful things with this Augsburg team this year.
He has, and he coached at St. Thomas for a long time, from 1984 to 1991. Took some MIAC championships himself when he was with the Tommies, and now he has his first shot at it with Augsburg.
Again, the MIAC title game only goes back to the playoff system, only goes back to 2008. There have only been 2 years that the championship game did not feature St. Thomas. Very interesting. Pardon me, there's only been 1 year. It's actually 2009 where the game did not feature St. Thomas. They haven't won all of them, but they have won most of them. And as I mentioned, they've won the last 7. The opponents have changed a little bit over the course of those 7 years. Today, Augsburg gets its chance as they've moved into the elite in this conference. Well, before we get started, I do want to remind you that Twin Cities Orthopedics is proud to be the official sports medicine provider for Augsburg Athletics. TCO is an all-inclusive orthopedic, sports medicine, and wellness provider offering world-class services and state-of-the-art facilities. Visit us at tcomn.com. And this game is brought to you by Wells Fargo. Proud supporter of Augsburg University, Wells Fargo has a renewed focus on our customers and communities. Established 1852, reestablished 2018. Well, good crowd on hand here. Good showing by the Auggies considering all the divided attention. St. Thomas has a little bit of that as well. Their women's hockey team is currently in action as we speak. They're on the other side of that semifinal bracket. And, of course, their men's hockey team tonight actually is in action right now up at St. John's as well in the semifinals of that, trailing 1-0. The only team for them in the Big Four that's not in action, the St. Thomas men's basketball team. And, of course, Augsburg had a lot to say about that on Thursday night. A very thrilling semifinal game to go on top of a thrilling quarterfinal game for the men. Just the second playoff game this year for the women as they had the bye, but they certainly got their money's worth on Thursday night with Bethel. And that's an interesting buildup, I would say, for Augsburg from Bethel to here, because Bethel has the Twin Towers inside, Anderson and, of course, Hannah Johnson. Then you come and you play St. Thomas for a similar style team. And, you've already had a bit of a template. You talked about the zone a little bit that Augsburg used to good effect on Thursday. We'll see how much they mix and match here in this game.
Yeah, and we chatted the best strategy for Augsburg before we even hopped on air here. And I can see them implementing that zone for maybe short stretches, especially if St. Thomas doesn't have great shooters on the floor. Say Renikoff and Porter come off, or one or the other have to leave the floor at a given point. Then you don't have as many shooters, especially if there's only one that you're really worried about out there. Then you can extend your zone on whatever side that player is on, and otherwise pack it in to make sure that Spalding isn't getting all the rebounds. The one other issue with the zone, of course, is the glass. And given how Spalding and Porter have fared on the offensive glass against the Auggies, zone could be problematic.
Yeah, these two teams very similar, especially in terms of offensive and defensive makeup. But the one big difference statistically is the fact that Augsburg is not among the best rebounding teams in the MIAC. In fact, they're near the foot of the conference. They are 10th in the conference in rebounding. Because they are this undersized group, they get their possessions different ways. St. Thomas averaging 38.9 rebounds per game. Augsburg 35.2. St. Thomas, amazingly, you would think they were tops in the conference in rebounding by a mile. They're actually only 4th, but still the height advantage is there. We're going to take it down to courtside for the introductions and the national anthem. Tip-off will be right after that on Augie Game Day.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hayden Frischka. Let's meet the coaches for both teams for today's contest. The Auggies are coached by Jen Reverso, assisted by Jackie White and Joe Tickey. The Tommies are coached by Frank Sin, assisted by Brian Silk, Rick Hampton, Kyle Agnew, and Jacqueline Moss. Let's meet the starting lineups for today's MIAC Women's Basketball Championship game. For the Augsburg Auggies, number 1, 5'4" junior from Osseo High School, Ariana Jones. For the St. Thomas Tommies, number 10, 5'9" senior from Minneapolis Augsburg High School, Lisa Renikoff. For Augsburg, number 3, 5'8" junior from Eagan, Tamara McLemore. For St. Thomas, number 20, 5'4" senior from Northern America, Kelly Russell. For the Auggies, number 5, 5'7" junior from Hopkins High School, Aisha Rubin. For the Tommies, number 21, 5'8" junior from Lakewood North High School, Summer Kripke. For Augsburg, number 14, 5'8" senior from Park Center High School, Camilla McCoy. For St. Thomas, number 32, 5'11" sophomore from Roseville, Kyle Porter. And for the Auggies, number 33, 5'9" junior from De La Salle High School, Cameron Spees. And for the Tommies, number 42, 6'3" senior from Annandale, Hannah Spalding.
So we're ready to roll here from Schoenecker Arena. The Augies' first ever appearance in the MIAC title game on the women's side. And again, the start of a huge day for Augsburg basketball, Augsburg hockey as well, as we're set to roll. The Augies with the usual starting 5 of Jones, McLemore, Wubin, McCoy, and Spees. Really one change for the Tommies from last game is number 21, Sarah Krinsky, who did not play. She was out injured for several games. Didn't play in the second meeting that was here. She did play against the Auggies back in January. Had just 1 point, 32 minutes, but a different look to the lineup always means different matchups, and we'll see how that plays out over the course of the day.
And Krinsky averages almost 5 points per game. She's not an instrumental piece in this St. Thomas unit, especially considering the depth that Ruth Sin has to work with.
Depth and experience as well. The 3 senior starters in Renikoff, Brazel, and of course the reigning MIAC Player of the Year, Hannah Spalding. Also Bobby Brendifer, who comes off the bench, one of the first off the bench. She's a senior as well. The Auggies famously with just the 2 seniors, only one who's been with the program all 4 years. That's Carly Cobo. Spees and Spalding get this title game underway, and the ball tapped around and eventually ends up in the hands of McCoy, and the Auggies will have the first possession. Ariana Jones been quiet against St. Thomas this year. McCoy is left all alone underneath the bucket. Does collect, but can't hit the shot. And the Auggies nearly with an early break as they just lost McCoy on that possession. McCoy picks up Porter. Spees on Spalding. That's the matchup we expect with this group. And Porter is such an inside-out player. Now they switch it off. Ariana Jones trying to rip it out from Spalding, who nearly traveled. And back out for Brazel. The cutter is Krinsky, and she misses the first one. Some physical defense inside. No call yet. So empty possessions on the first trip for both teams. Always think about, as an underdog, especially on the road, how important that good start is, as McLemore is going to be called for traveling. Maybe a little bit fortunate she didn't get called for an offensive foul as she hit the shot. If you're going to get one of those 2 calls against you, I think early in the game you'll take the travel.
Yeah, that's not the worst thing that could have happened there. She was just anticipating the contact and shuffled the feet early.
Saw St. Thomas overplaying that 3-point line, however, and she was able to slip to the back door. Now the open shot for Krinsky. And as you said, Krinsky's the player that if they're going to let somebody shoot it, she's probably the one, as Wubin now attacking the bucket. And that's put off inside. Wubin tying up with Spalding, and Wubin ends up on the floor. It will be St. Thomas ball.
And I'd like to see Wubin take that into Renikoff, because Renikoff jumped at her and Wubin did a rip-through to avoid contact. If you initiate there and jump into Renikoff, who's already coming your way, you're definitely going to the free throw line and giving a foul to one of St. Thomas's best players.
Certainly one of Cage's go-to moves, that step through. She does it against double teams so well. All right, sometimes we can rely on something a little too much. Another miss from the outside, this time by Renikoff. And McCoy battling for that rebound. And again, so comfortable bringing the ball up the floor. The Auggies will set it up with 22 seconds. No points on the board yet. Krinsky handling McLemore for now. Spiess wants it inside as she got the switch off on Krinsky. St. Thomas is so used to switching everything. 8 to shoot. Jones for Spiess. She'll try to drive it up against Spalding, and the early foul is going to go against Spalding. And that's something to watch in this game. We talk about Spiess getting into foul trouble a lot, and she does. But if she can somehow get Spalding with a couple early, that could change the dynamic here.
Spalding is a really conservative defender, too. Even when she had 2 fouls in the matchup between these teams late in the game, their second matchup of the year, she was playing straight up. She was backing off of Spiess, McLemore, really anyone attacking the hoop, because she does not want to pick up fouls. She wants to play 35-plus minutes.
Spalding is not a player who has been troubled by fouls much this year, and as you said, she plays conservatively, so she doesn't pick them up. She's only fouled out once. That was in their season opener with George Fox way back in November. She rarely actually gets into 3 or 4 territory, despite the fact that she's a shot blocker. Kaya Porter, dangerous from the outside, but also can take it inside, and that one lucks its way into the basket as McCoy slapped down for the foul.
That's a really tough possession for Camille McCoy, because first she has to sink down to help on the backside. Otherwise, St. Thomas can lob it in to Hannah Spalding over the fronting defender. Then she has to jump out to Kaya Porter, the best shooting three-point shooter in the conference, and she gets beat off the dribble.
Porter was the leading scorer in the first meeting between these teams. That didn't mean much that day. It was only 11 points. The Auggies didn't have anybody with more than 7. 3-1. Augsburg still looking for its first field goal. Wubin lost that pivot foot just a hair. And it's a turnover for the Auggies. Again, this one looks like it could have a real defensive tone to it. The Auggies throw out some full court pressure. Porter looking for someone to get it into, and it's a 5-second call. And there was just no help back there. Brazel was the only St. Thomas player in the backcourt. Renikoff got back, but very late. Inbounds for Wubin. 7:26 to go here in the first quarter. 3-1 St. Thomas. The Auggies with only Cameron Spiess free throw to their credit, despite a couple of good looks early. Here's McCoy on a short jumper, too strong. And McCoy against Spalding, that's a matchup where I'd love to see Camille try to go around her, because she is so quick. Especially if Hannah's already sitting on 1 foul, which she is.
The thing is, Spalding's not coming more than 10 feet away from the hoop.
Kelsey Cox into the game. She replaced Krinsky. Cox has been starting a lot lately for St. Thomas. 7 to shoot. Brazel for Porter. Got McCoy in the air as well. Got back to challenge, though, and the shot off the back iron. And the Auggies would love to push in these situations, but the Tommies very good getting back defensively. They were like that in both meetings this year. Wubin, as you see the other switch off, and then another one. Jones will take the 3. Off the back iron as Spalding clears out McCoy. So the Auggies cold to start from the field. Back the other way. Renikoff stops and pops, and she misses. So some early game shooting jitters for both teams. Jones into the front court. 6:09 to go. Only 1 made field goal in this game between the two, and that was a bit of a lucky break off the left hand of Kaya Porter as she was fouled. Still got it to roll in. Spiess driving against Porter. And Porter got a hand on something, and Spiess thinks it was her as the shot comes up well short. Brazel trying to throw over the top for Spalding. Missed it. Beats McCoy, though, to the offensive rebound and missed it again, and then it taps up and in, and that might have been off an Auggie hand. But again, 3 chances at it for St. Thomas.
And that's the last thing that you can give up if you're Augsburg. You have to put a body on her. You can't be ball watching once she puts a shot up.
Auggies really need a field goal. Have something good happen as Spiess spins and hits. That gets the student section that's traveled in that corner for Augsburg up in arms. Cox inside, Spalding on the baseline against the double, just hoists it up with the left hand, and Spies so careful in the early going. So 7-3 St. Thomas, 4 for Spalding, 3 for Porter. Spies again, and Spalding saw that one coming. A little too far away from the basket for Cameron that side. Again, they try to throw over the top, went off the hand of Porter, but they say it's off Jones. The Auggies are going to get some substitutions in as Jasmine Solseth and Jen Misello are going to come in, replacing Spies and McCoy, who've done a lot of hard running here in the opening 5 minutes and change. And Ruth Sin had to remind everybody that's the media timeout. We still have those in the playoff games. She's on top of it. She's used to this, of course, having played in a lot of these over the years. But do you have a group that requires transportation? Minnesota Coaches can provide you with safe, clean, friendly, and timely charter transportation service. No matter what size your group, no matter where your pickup or destination, visit www.minnesotacoaches.com today to request a quote. Minnesota Coaches is the official bus provider for Augsburg Athletics. And Devani's Pizza and Hot Hoagies is Augsburg Athletics' first choice for a great meal. Devani's is located right across the street and offers the amazing Auggie-matic discount. Get 10% off any order. Just tell them you want the Auggie-matic discount at Devani's. Well, so far, an interesting start here for Augsburg. They are not shooting well, not getting necessarily the best looks at the basket. St. Thomas had a couple of offensive rebounds, but 5 minutes in, you're still in this, 7-3, thanks to a pretty good defensive effort for the most part.
For the most part, yeah. Hannah Spalding has got a couple of easy looks inside. You have to make sure that you box her out. I think that's the number one concern that Ted Reverso should be harping on in the huddle right now, because once Spalding gets to the block, she gets the basketball there, she's probably putting in the hole. If she doesn't, you can't let her get second chance opportunities. And the same goes for Kaya Porter and the other forwards for St. Thomas, because they are constantly crashing the glass.
St. Thomas ball out of the timeout. Augsburg, one of its first 7 from the field. St. Thomas, 3 of its first 10, and very close to another 5-second call there as Porter picked up by Misello. This is a switch. They want Misello on Spalding. Porter hoists that one up. It looks like she changed her mind. She was trying the dump down for Spalding, and she's had 2 buckets that haven't looked necessarily comfortable, but they've gone in. Misello in the corner. Oh, Wilbin had a clean cut through. Instead, it's out for McLemore. Like to get her going, and she takes it inside. Now Solseth. Back out for McLemore. Step back won't work. 9 to shoot. Jones looking for a screen from Misello. She'll take it in, float it up, in and out. And they've had a couple of those already, Augsburg. St. Thomas wants to push with Brazel. Now Porter. There's that shot fake. Down low, Spalding, and bad communication there between Solseth and Misello.
Yeah, I don't know why Misello stepped up to help. There was no screen. She just thought that Solseth needed help on the drive.
Now you're in a position, Augsburg, where you need a bucket, and you need one soon. Make sure you stay in this thing. Bounce pass baseline. Misello, the short jumper. Doesn't matter who it comes from, and that's an unlikely source, but the Auggies do get the field goal.
McLemore seeing 2 bodies flash at her almost every time she touches the ball. She needs help.
Now it's Renikoff left alone. The Auggies get away with it, but another offensive rebound. Kicked across for Porter. This is against the zone for Augsburg. Now Brazel for Renikoff. And a hold on the floor is going to be called against Jones. Substitutions both ways as Asia Wilson comes into the game. Macy Hattelstad has just come on for St. Thomas. They guard each other on the inbounds. Hattelstad out of Alexandria. Sophomore on this St. Thomas team. Trapped along the wing, and Wilson doing a nice job, and another 5-second call. Hattelstad picked up the ball in a bad spot, and once again, St. Thomas a little slow to come over and help her out.
They're out of their element, and the Augsburg defense is creating that.
Need to get some back-to-back buckets going, and this has been the issue for Augsburg against St. Thomas this year. Consistent offense, especially with the way they defend the three-point line. They call that a travel against Misello. Looked like a pretty decent post move, but
the prior travels were good calls. That one, I don't know what Masello has to change.
Would have given her 4 points, which is well above her season average. Porter going to work again, this time against Solseth. Misses that one, and Jasmine battles for the board. The Auggies don't pay for the travel call. McLemore picked up by Brazel, who's been her shadow for 3 games this year. And Tamira still had 21 points in that second meeting, but she was really slow to get going in the first half. Big credit to the St. Thomas defense for that. Solseth, one-on-one, into the corner for Wilson with 6 to shoot. And Asia's going to have to just hoist one up, and it was tipped anyway, and Solseth might have passed up a good shooting chance there for a worse shot. Hattelstad against McLemore. Spalding, the defending MIAC Player of the Year and All-American a year ago. Didn't start 2 years ago for St. Thomas. That's how good the pipeline has been. Down to 10 to shoot. Brazel not a big offensive option. Porter is. Once again, that shot fake, but a hand on the pass, and they're going to call it a kick against Augsburg. And it looked like it was off the hand of Masello. That's 2 curious calls in the last minute. Mia Krogsang, a freshman for St. Thomas, in. McLemore and Jones out for Lohr and Wubin for Augsburg.
Yeah, that's a head scratcher again.
That gives a new 15 on the shot clock for St. Thomas. They go right inside as Solseth called for the foul as she tried to help. Just a little late getting there. First on Solseth, one of the 3 Auggies who fouled out on Thursday in that war of attrition with Bethel. Spalding is a good free throw shooter at 71%, but misses that one. One for 2. So a 7-point lead for St. Thomas. 90 seconds to go, and Selena Lohr didn't play much Thursday night, just a couple of minutes. In for a late stretch in the first. Asia Wubin driving against Brazel. The dump down for Masello. Great look by Wubin, and the Auggies are going to need a lot of that tonight.
Especially the way Hannah Spalding is playing defense. She's just sitting underneath the bucket and waiting to help out on any drivers, anyone getting penetration.
Hattelstad. Solseth beaten to the left, and there's the jumper for Krogsang. And the Auggies having to close out on Krogsang, and they've seen that a lot with Porter. They're able to get that first step every time. Selena Lohr, that time trying to repeat what just happened, and Spalding was ready for it. And now a foul is going to be called on Wubin. That is the 4th on the Auggies, just 1 on St. Thomas. As Bobby Brendifer will come into the game, replacing Kelsey Cox.
Masello has got a lot of run in this first period. I'm surprised at how long McCoy and Spiess had remained on the bench, and McCoy is still there.
Well, Masello may be the only player who is like Spalding inside is Brazel. Hey, better arm touch. Spalding, though, gets the offensive rebound, and a foul called.
It's another case where Masello had position on Spalding, but she didn't box out, and so Spalding was able to reel in that board over her.
Second trip to the line for Spalding, and she's just 1 for 3 so far. Again, the Tommies in this game are giving Augsburg some chances, as Ted Reverso talking with the officials about some of the calls in the last few minutes I don't think he's a huge fan of. St. Thomas has left some short shots on the board. They've missed a few free throws, but the Auggies still down 8 here in this first quarter. More substitutions as Renikoff back into the game. Spalding gets a breather, and she's replaced by the freshman Bryn Rollin.
Spalding's almost racked up double-digit rebounds in this first quarter. It's crazy.
He is very much a double-double machine. Here's Wubin. Selena Lohr. Asia Wilson from deep. We saw her practicing those the last time we were here. 3-pointers from beyond the arc, well beyond the arc, because St. Thomas stays right on that arc. Skip pass across for Hadelstad, and she traveled with 3.3 left in the first quarter. Augsburg will have a chance at a final heave to try to cut it to what probably would be 5. You would expect a three-pointer coming. Lohr ahead for Wilson. She'll take a half-court shot. Not too far off, but the Auggies will go into the second quarter down 8. 3 of 12 from the field in that first quarter. St. Thomas just 6 of 16. The Auggies are going to need a better shooting performance in this game if they're going to stay in it.
The offense needs to change, and they need to get better looks. They've had a couple of times where they've had a fairly high percentage opportunity, and the shot just hasn't fallen. You think about one of the layup chances that Masello had. McCoy got a pretty good look inside the paint, and those didn't fall. But they need more consistent chances to put the ball in the hole.
And the rebounding battle, which we highlighted in the pregame, 14-6 in favor of St. Thomas. 4 of those 14 coming at the offensive end. So some disturbing trends in that first quarter, but still just an 8-point game here as the Auggies having to battle defensively to stay in it. We'll see if they can get hot at all in quarter number 2. Before we get there, I want to remind you that whether you're traveling for work or taking a vacation from it, the Courtyard Minneapolis downtown helps you put more play in your stay. From the gym and pool to redesigned guest rooms and social lobby space, they've got you covered. Visit them at courtyardminneapolis.com/Augsburg. Make room for a little fun at Courtyard. Now the Auggies down 8 as we get set to start quarter number 2. And we had kind of a checklist in the pregame. Play loose, shoot well, battle on the boards. So far, they've looked a little tight. They've not shot well, and they're getting out-rebounded by plenty.
Yeah, I don't think you can check any of those boxes after 10 minutes if you're Ted Reverso, and I think you want to see the turnover trend change as well because they lost the turnover battle 5-3 in that first period, and playing loose probably leads right into reversing that trend.
Trying to get McLemore open early. Again, she's guarded tightly, and they hedge out on her every time. They go inside for Masello. And Jen Masello to the left hand, tips it back out. Players to the floor, and it's a jump ball. We'll give it to the Tommies. Jen Masello, who hasn't shot much, especially recently, been kind of the go-to offensive option for Augsburg in this game. Carly Cobo is about to check in to replace Masello. I wonder if this is due to the fact that right now, no Spalding in there, and you want to save Masello for her. Jen Masello came into this game having taken just 32 field goals all year. She's taken 3 today. Long jumper, no good. Augie's back the other way, trying to cut into this lead. Much easier said than done against a St. Thomas team that only allows 48.9 points per game, and a foul called on Rollin will send Spiess to the line.
Oh, they reversed the call.
That's not going to make Ted Reverso any happier. He was not a fan of the officiating in the first quarter, and when you get a call change on a play like that against a key player early in the second, that's only going to heat up the thermometer a little bit on the Augie bench. Renikoff skip pass. This is Brazel. Rollin trying to body up with Cobo inside. 7 now, 6 to shoot for St. Thomas. Porter with the screen. Renikoff back out to Porter. She will take the 3 late in the shot clock. No good, but Rollin in good position to get the rebound. And hoists one up over Cobo. Nobody there for St. Thomas to board that one. Tamira McLemore yet to attempt a shot in this game for Augsburg. St. Thomas has shadowed her very well. Kasia Wubin inside. Tried to pass out of it, threw it right into the body of one of the St. Thomas players. And they leave Porter all alone, able to step up and shot one in rhythm, a 50% shooter. The Auggies catch a break right there. In transition, McLemore. Again, they get back. And a foul called underneath. That's going to be against St. Thomas. It's on Rollin. It would have been her second had that one not been reversed with Cameron Spiess, but she goes to the bench anyway. Spalding back in.
Porter to the bench here too as well for St. Thomas.
Quickly in for Wubin and out for Jones. They'd love to get something from McLemore here. Staying right with her right now is Bobby Brendifer. They have Brendifer and Brazel, who are really good defensive players. McLemore in traffic, trying to kick it across for Cobo. She's telling Cobo, cut to the basket there. Cobo is hanging out at the three-point line where she's not a shooter.
McLemore and Wubin and Jones are all having issues on the drive because St. Thomas is helping really well. There's a second, sometimes a third defender coming to make sure that it's not easy to shoot or distribute it after penetrating.
Krogseng, Brazel, Renikoff, Spalding, and Brendifer, the 5 for St. Thomas. Cobo battling with Spalding inside of the 2-3 zone. Brazel kicks across Renikoff from the elbow. No good again, but the Auggies so worried about Spalding that Krogseng was able to punch in and have an uncontested rebound. She'll head to the line.
Out of the zone, there's not much you can do there because you have a body on Spalding, you got a body on whoever was on the weak side, and multiple players closing out on Renikoff as she took the jumper, and there just weren't any bodies left to take on Krogseng.
Krogseng is now 9 of 22 from the free throw line this year. This St. Thomas team, other than Spalding, almost nobody goes to the line. They only have one player this year, aside from Hannah Spalding, who's attempted 40 free throws. And Krogseng 0 for 2. Certainly a player you don't want to foul in that situation necessarily, but a player like Krogseng, you can live with it because she does struggle at the line. McLemore finally able to get free, and there you go. The Auggies absolutely needed that, and just like that, it's a 5-point game. First shot of the day for McLemore, who's been red hot. 5 of 9 from outside the arc Thursday night. Renikoff out for Brazel. She will try to answer, and it's off the front rim. Spiess boxes out and uses the sideline to her advantage. Augsburg at the moment has a better shooting percentage than St. Thomas, 28% to 27%. Difference is St. Thomas has attempted 22 shots to Augsburg's 14.
That's due to offensive rebounds and turnovers. Those are all second chances and more opportunities that St. Thomas has created for their offense.
Krinsky now in to guard McLemore. Asia Wilson might be an X factor in this game for the Auggies. She can get open for some outside shots. Jones the same, and it is a 2-point game. We want Wilson to hit him. If Jones is hitting him as well, the Auggies are in absolute business today. That will open up opportunities for McLemore. The Auggies crowd with a defense chant going, and that is a foul on Spiess. And now they're going to talk this over. They've got to change this because she was standing like a statue in there. And they're going to keep it with Cameron Spiess, and the Augie bench can't believe it. I think they're going to try to say she was in the arc, which is not true. We try to stay out of these things as much as we can on the season, but these two against Spiess today have been highly questionable.
I think her feet were on that gray line, but she certainly wasn't inside the white arc.
She was definitely planted. So Spiess has to go out with two really unlucky fouls. So Masello and Solseth will come back. Pardon me, McCoy and Solseth come back in. Renikoff hits 1 of 2. Jones will bring it up. The Auggies in a one-possession game, despite the fact that a lot of things have gone wrong in this first half. Solseth. McCoy now with Porter on her. Porter back into the game. McLemore being shadowed again. Spinning, baseline jumper for Solseth. That is a shot that she can hit. It's out of bounds, and they're going to keep it with the Auggies. McCoy hustling to battle. Good open look there for Jasmine Solseth. We've seen her knock down those mid-range jumpers this year, and there's a foul on Brazel. Second on St. Thomas here in the second quarter with 5:44 remaining before the half. Pardon me, that's on Krinsky. 21, not 20. That's her first. Auggies with 3 team fouls in the second quarter. St. Thomas with 2. St. Thomas didn't pick up many in the first quarter either. Jones for Solseth outside the arc. Wilson popping free. McLemore. Once again, this St. Thomas team defending that three-point line so well. McCoy fouled on the shot. Porter got a hand in there, and the way that missed, that certainly looked like there was some contact.
Yeah, if she hit McCoy at all on the arm, that's a foul because Porter was not straight up. She's reaching out. It's the classic NBA play where you see the shooters kind of draw in their defender, then rip through the defender's arm as it's looming over them.
McCoy now 17 of 28 from the line this year. Out goes Krinsky, and back in comes Kelsey Cox. And McCoy hits them both. And players like McCoy and Masello, any offense you get out of them is almost a bonus for Augsburg, but in a game like this, you really need it because they're going to shut down your top guns. Skipped across now for Brazel, 14 to shoot. They want to go inside for Spalding. The Auggies are denying that. Around Porter, the open look for 3. She's been off the mark early, and the Auggies with the rebound and a chance to take the lead. Asia Wilson into the front court, hands off for Jones. Here is Solseth from the baseline, no good, and Spalding with the board. Maybe a little early for that shot.
Especially a mid-range jumper.
Porter again wanting to go inside. Solseth doing a nice job denying that entry. Brazel the floater, no good. Knocked out of the hands of Spalding by McCoy. Spalding will go to the line again. We'll have our next media timeout, our second quarter media timeout. Well, 16-15 here with 4:25 remaining in this first half. A lot of things have gone horribly wrong here for Augsburg today. The foul situation is against them. They've given up offensive rebounds. But no matter what happens with these free throws, it's a one-possession game here because they have battled so hard defensively.
The defense has been phenomenal for Augsburg. They've held St. Thomas to 25% from the field. And the Tommies have got some decent looks from 3, yet they're 0 of 8. They're not hitting anything from deep, and I think Augsburg has lucked out a little bit in that department.
Owned and operated by an Augsburg alumnus, 360 WOW Inc. is the parent company to several up-and-coming brands in the Twin Cities, 1-800-GOT-JUNK, You Move Me, and Shack Shine. If you're looking for a great job on a great team with great pay that is near campus, learn more or apply online by visiting 360wowinc.com. And the Corner Bar is a proud sponsor of Augsburg Athletics. Located in Minneapolis' historic Seven Corners District, the Corner Bar is the perfect place for great food, outstanding pizza, and the almost world-famous Joey Wings. And there's tons of screens, so you won't miss a second of the action. Visit the Corner.bar for more information on the Corner Bar. Shooting woes for both teams. Augsburg 5 out of 17, that's 29.4%. St. Thomas 6 of 24. 25% there, and as Jason just mentioned, 0 of 8 from outside the arc. The Auggies 2 of 5. St. Thomas also 4 of 9 at the stripe. Spalding has struggled at the line in this game, but knocks down the first one. Mentioned over a 71% free throw shooter. Now 3 of 5 on the day.
It's amazing it's this close, too, with the Auggies trailing 8-3 in turnovers.
Second one just sits down on the back iron and rolls in. So a 3-point game. 4:22 remaining in the first half, and Asia Wilson for McCoy, and now it's Cox picking up McLemore. Wilson on the curl. Around 4, McLemore trying to spot an open lane, and the Tommies able to close it quickly. 10 to shoot. Solseth skips across for McLemore, tries the step back 3. Yes, ties it at 18. And that's a shot she's going to need to have today because they are staying right in front of her. Quickly inside for Spalding. McLemore couldn't get there in time, and St. Thomas takes the lead back just like that. 3:35 to go in this first half. The Auggies still working it around the perimeter here. McCoy, that free throw line jumper no good. Porter able to grab the rebound. Trying to get back. Spalding made a tough catch and an even better finish. So after the tying three by McLemore, 4 straight points for the Tommies in quick succession. Spalding already with a double-double, 14 and 11. Remember, she had 32 and 21 the last time these two teams met here, which was just 2 weeks ago. A reach-in foul against St. Thomas. That'll go on Kelsey Cox, be her first. Cobo and Masello in for Solseth and McCoy. Jones to inbound. They get it into Cobo, who is left alone. Cobo trying to drive, and she'll get herself to the free throw line. The foul's going to be on Renikoff. Case of not much else going on. Cobo, who is about the 8th or 9th offensive option on this team, but a senior, made the smart play.
Yeah, that's heads up. And at first she's thinking to get rid of the ball, naturally, when she has it, but when she IDs that mismatch on Renikoff, go right at her. Go to the rim. You have a huge size advantage.
Free throw shooting such a huge part of the Auggies' win on Thursday night. And they're 4 of 5 here to start the day. Some of their less prominent shooters at the line, like McCoy and like Cobo. Cobo does miss the second one. Porter brings it up, and the Auggies will go zone on this possession. Down 3, 2:38 to go in the first half. And right now the Auggies just trying to get this thing to halftime manageable. Spalding double teamed, and a big collision there between Cox and McLemore. And McLemore, I think, is going to get the foul. That's going to be her second. So they're going to have to get Nicole Zielsdorf off the bench here. McLemore will have to sit for the final 2:28, and now you really want to limit what's going on at the other end. No Spiess, no McLemore for the rest of the first half. Krinsky's going to check back in for St. Thomas. Cox okay after essentially getting clotheslined on that play and hits the first free throw. Came into this game 15 of 26 from the stripe. Brendifer also into the game for Renikoff. Two for two, and now you've got a lineup out there for the Auggies where you wonder where the offense does come from here. No Wubin on the floor, no Spiess, and no McLemore. Asia Wilson, really probably option one here. Zielsdorf, capable outside shooter, though has struggled this year.
Wubin with just one foul, I'd suspect, will come back on before halftime.
And we got a grab inside, and that is going to send the Auggies to the line. It's going to be on Krinsky. That'll be number 2. And Jen Masello, who's attempted 7 free throws all year, will go to the stripe for a pair.
The officials are closely monitoring the off-ball action.
And Masello gets the same roll that Spalding got at the other end. These are soft irons here, Schoenecker Arena.
You think that's why they scored 20 points less apiece at Cy Melby Hall?
Maybe. How about that for Masello? Using the back iron to your advantage on the free throws. She hits them both and is 24-21. Zielsdorf almost looked like she's playing man-to-man out there. Everybody else playing zone. They do get it inside for Porter. Skips across Brendifer. Able to take it inside. Asia Wilson trying to fight for the rebound, and the Auggies do enough to make sure Spalding doesn't get the putback. Quickly ahead for Zielsdorf. Chance to tie it here with a 3 for the Auggies, but any bucket will do with 1:39 remaining in the first half. Masello skips across. Jones will try the 3. Off the iron. And rebound the long one out to Brazel. Bounce pass, and filling the lane is Brendifer. She missed it, but the foul's coming. Foul's going to be on Zielsdorf, just a hair late. Brendifer, again, like many St. Thomas players, has not shot many this year, but she's 13 out of 14 at the stripe. Now 13 out of 15. St. Thomas just 8 out of 14 as a group. That is a huge break for the Auggies here in this first half. And Brendifer misses a pair. Cobo the board. And St. Thomas has allowed avenues for Augsburg back into this game with some of their offensive struggles here today. Zielsdorf for 3, yes! And she had a game earlier this year at Bethel where she was huge in the first half, hit about 3 or 4 of them to keep Augsburg in the game. They were able to win it. She's a good three-point shooter, but just has struggled this year. Spalding inside, just forces her way up over Masello, and it's a 2-point game again. Every time the Auggies have tied it, they've gone right inside, and Spalding's taking care of business. Wilson against Porter. Now Cobo matched up with Brazel. Ariana Jones on the drive, but the kick was to Masello. Now 8 to shoot. Masello's going to try to go right at Spalding, and there's foul number 2. And against Spalding, you see her play underneath the basket, but when she has to come out like that, she doesn't necessarily move laterally as quickly as you'd hope if you're a St. Thomas fan. And the Auggies haven't taken advantage of that too much. But there was one for Masello.
And Spalding's typically guarding someone who isn't great off the dribble, so you don't see her move laterally all that much. We also haven't seen her attempt to block quite in that manner, where she's coming down, striking through the basketball, and the officials were quick to whistle it.
Jen Masello had hit 3 free throws all season before today, and she has 3 attempts. Won't make it 4. So the Auggies down 1. The shot clock off here with 25 seconds remaining in the first half. The Auggies do show man-to-man here. It almost looked like a zone for a second. Brazel. Porter is open, does not take the outside shot. They want to take the last one, St. Thomas. It'll be Brazel for 3. Knocked it down. And that'll do it for the first half. St. Thomas will take a 4-point lead. Now, given everything that's gone on in this first half, only down 4 for Augsburg. I'd say you take it. That's a tough last possession, though.
Yeah, all things considered, a very good first half from Augsburg. You're right, though, especially after watching St. Thomas go 0 of 8 to start the game from three-point land and then nail that one from downtown right before recess. It hurts if you're Ted Reverso and the Auggies. Nonetheless, if you go into the locker room down 4, you can devise a game plan to work your way right back into this one and go down to the wire against the number 3 team in the country.
We said it a lot on Thursday night. Augsburg has been a second-half team all year, especially at home, however, mostly. You don't necessarily want to be trailing on the road, especially a place like this. But in the game, despite the foul trouble for Spieth, the foul trouble for McLemore, some of the struggles they've had offensively getting shots away, they're right in it here in this championship game, and I don't think any of the Augsburg coaching staff, would trade that out.
Yeah, we said from the start that they should play loose. I think you pull out all the stops here, even if you have McLemore in foul trouble. A couple of other Auggies got into some foul trouble in the first half. They pick up a third one quick in the third quarter. I don't have a problem with them staying on the floor. Fourth foul is different. Then you probably want them on the bench, saving them for the fourth, but I say let them play in that third quarter.
On the other side, Hannah Spalding picked up her second late in the first half. First possession, I'd say you got to go right at her with somebody trying to pick up that third foul, don't you think?
Yeah, and the tough part about going at Spalding is she just sits underneath the 10. She's usually matched up on Masello or Spieth, right? And those two players aren't working out to the perimeter. So just as much as Spalding is guarding her matchup, she's guarding someone else in help defense.
We'll see how it all shakes out after the break. Before we step aside for a moment, I want to remind you that Jimmy John's is the #1 sandwich choice for Augsburg athletics. They are located on the northwest corner of campus and provide fast delivery. How fast, you ask? Freaky fast. Go to www.jimmyjohns.com to view their menu and hours. Jimmy John's. And take a trip down Memory Lane at Memory Lanes and Flashback Cafe on 26th Avenue in South Minneapolis. 30 bowling lanes, live entertainment, great food, and 2 game rooms make for a great time. Visit www.memorylanesmpls.com for more information. Halftime here from Schoenecker Arena. St. Thomas 29, Augsburg 25. We'll be back about 8 minutes from now to get you set for half number 2 here on Augie Game Day. About 4 minutes to go before the second half begins. Charlie Beatty, Jason Dora with you on Augie game day. The Auggies, despite a lot of obstacles in that first half, only down 4. And you take a look at this stat sheet, Jason, and one thing sticks out at you. Hannah Spalding in this game, 16 points, 12 rebounds. She's 6 of 9 from the field. The rest of the Tommies are really struggling. Hard to find a way to shut her down, but the Auggies have got to do something in the second half.
Yeah, 4 of 21 for the rest of the St. Thomas lineup in that first half. Kaya Porter was 2 of 7. Kaylee Brazel was 1 of 4, and Lucia Renikoff was 0 of 5. And especially with Renikoff, who shoots the basketball really well no matter where she is on the floor, from deep, from mid-range, and on the inside. That's a surprising mark. Something that they've done well against Porter is making sure that she shoots with her left. We saw her take a lot of shots from inside 10 feet with her left hand, and she's obviously not as good with the left as she is with the right, so I'd continue to force her that way, and same goes for Hannah Spalding.
She's pretty good with the right. Porter is 57.9% from the field this year. That's second in the conference. We can all guess who's first. It's Hannah Spalding at nearly 70%. Her shooting percentage, the amazing part, is down this year. She shot 71% from the field a year ago. This year, 69.5, which is just otherworldly. And that shows you why she's able to put up the numbers she does. First in the conference in scoring at 16.8, third in rebounding, first in blocks, best shooter in the conference. Only 5 players in the conference averaging over 16 points per game, and in the last 2 games we've seen 4 of them, because 2 of them played for Bethel, 1 here for St. Thomas, and the 5th one is Tamira McLemore, crawled over 16 points a game with her effort on Thursday night. So the Auggies with some foul trouble. Cameron Speece with 2 fouls, and 2 that are pretty questionable in terms of what they should have been called. Tamira McLemore also has 2 in this game. She picked up a couple late. Camille McCoy is playing with 2. On the other side, St. Thomas, Sarah Krinsky has 2. The key one is Spalding also has 2. We'll see how that plays out early in the third quarter if the Auggies do try to attack her. Like you said, very hard to do that, but you think they've got to find a way.
Yeah, you want to put some pressure on her and see if you can create some foul trouble for Hannah Spalding, potentially get her out of the game. You mentioned it, Cameron Speece picking up 2 fouls, both of which were somewhat questionable, and you can nitpick in any given basketball game and find plenty of instances where you can argue a call, but both of those were really tough for Augsburg to swallow, as well as a kicked ball violation and another turnover on the possession before where we just didn't see anything that really warranted a whistle.
But despite all of that, the Auggies are in this game, down 29-25. They will get the basketball to start the third quarter, so they'll have a chance to cut into that lead right away here in half number 2. Well, Twin Cities Orthopedics is proud to be the official sports medicine provider for Augsburg Athletics. TCO offers orthopedic urgent care hours at 6 convenient locations across the metro. Open from 8 to 8, 7 days a week. Visit us at tcomn.com to find a location near you. Now, no matter what happens today, the Auggies have a chance to go into the NCAA tournament. Very unlikely you and I will be able to call these games. So just a quick moment for those of you watching. If you've watched all year long, we've had a blast bringing these women's games to you, watching this team take not just a leap, but a quantum leap forward in terms of this program this year. So it's been a lot of fun for us, and great coaching job being done by Ted Reverso, Jackie Voigt, Jill Tishy, Jennifer Phillips as well.
It's been really fun to see the Auggie community rally around this program and this team this season, too. There's a good crowd in attendance, and the students have even made it out.
And it's like that for all sports, which makes today so interesting because you've got 4 games. One is here. One is at the Ed Saugestad rink. One is at the Tria rink. That's going on right now. And the 4th one's in Collegeville, and I would imagine there's some people here that are going to get to Collegeville tonight as Speece hits the early shot. Tough one, and the Auggies trail by 2. St. Thomas into this patient offensive set. This is a team that averages 75 points per game, but they don't rush. Inside, trying to go to Spalding again. Another great catch, and there's just not much you can do once she's got it there. Speece did everything possible, and she still made the play. That's how you shoot 71% in the season. Speece now at the top of the key and hands off for Ariana Jones. We had a big 3 to really get the Auggies offense going in this game. A battle inside, and a foul is going to be called on Brazel, who got switched off onto Speece and was hanging on for dear life. first foul on Kylie Brazel.
Brazel looked like the back person in a tug of rope who's doing everything they can to hold their ground and couldn't do it against the much stronger Spies.
Holding onto that big loop.
Exactly.
McLemore, another step back three, and right down the middle. 1 point game. She's hit 2 of those today. She's got 9 points, which leads the Auggies. She's taken 3 shots.
She's really unguardable when she's hitting that step back.
Tough defense from Jones, but again, no box out, and Spies is going to pick up foul number 3. First shot there came from Renikoff, and Jones played that well, but they got caught ball watching.
That foul isn't a possibility if Spies gets that rebound. She was looking at the ball while Spalding got in position for the rebound.
So Marcelo will come into the game for Spies early. Cameron in 2 possessions offensively scored a basket and drew a foul. So you see the value she adds. Just trying to keep her on the floor, though. That's the tricky part. And fouled out of 3 of the last 4 games. Fouled out 7 times this year. She doesn't need to work on her game a ton next year, but you just want to see her improve that. As McCoy driving, picks up one on Porter, and frustrated she didn't also hit the shot. Would have had a chance to tie the game had she done that. Porter's got 2 now.
The classic jab and go from Camille, and when she's at the elbow, she'll turn that into a pull-up jumper. When she's on the baseline, she tries to take it all the way to the hoop.
Again, this is a former high school point guard that is playing a power forward here in the MIAC, and she's got ball handling skills that few at that position have in this league, and she does hit 1 out of 2. So it's a 2-point game. 8:33 to go, third quarter. Auggies without Cameron Spies right now with 3 fouls. Elsie Cox starting the second half for St. Thomas. Porter trying to go right at McCoy. Overcooked it, and Marcelo able to fight off Spalding for the board. McLemore back the other way. No room on the baseline against Cox. They'll start it over. They get it around to Wubin. Wubin driving on Renikoff, and as she stumbles, Renikoff's going to get called for the foul, and that'll be 2 on her. Already 3 fouls against St. Thomas. 2 fouls against St. Thomas here in the second half. That should be 3. There's 1 on Porter, 1 on Brazel wrestling with Spies, and now 1 here on Renikoff. They only have 2 on the board. They've given the Auggies 2. They had 1 against Spies. I think they may have attributed 1 the wrong direction. McLemore doesn't take the step back that time. Instead, Wubin will try the baseline, and a foul on somebody. Spalding in the area, but I think they're going to get Renikoff. Either way, that's her 3rd.
Yeah, you're right, Charlie. There's 1 foul against
They
Augsburg,
did just change it. It is now 4-1.
St. Thomas, yeah.
So Renikoff with 3 fouls, 2 quick ones, and want to get Spalding in foul trouble, but Renikoff also a candidate. And Wubin, who has been getting to the line, and her free throw percentage has been rocketing up recently, hits the first.
And Augsburg will be in the bonus for the almost final 8 minutes of this quarter.
Very aggressive going to the bucket. We saw that in the second quarter Thursday after they were almost exclusively an outside shooting team in the first 10 minutes. 1 out of 2 for Wubin, whose free throw percentage up to 73% coming into this game, just 11th in the conference. And McCoy will be called for her 3rd foul, wrestling with Porter inside.
And I guess they've called a very similar foul on the other end against St. Thomas, so that's why this one's going against McCoy. But I didn't see anything that was more aggressive from her than it was from Porter.
Trying to get it in to Spalding. Up and over McCoy, who just had to play straight up and down. Almost got that pass stolen as Jones read it, but it is a 3-point game again. Marcelo wanted the cutter that was Wubin. Instead, it's McLemore. She'll drive, trying to split 2 defenders. Has to throw up a circus shot, and a tie-up will give the ball to St. Thomas.
Going back a possession, St. Thomas runs that same inbounds play all the time, where Spalding goes across the lane, sets a screen to fill up, to free up the forward on the other block, and then seals to get open, and you have to get in front of her so they can't feed her right underneath the hoop.
One of the oldest underneath the basket inbounds plays in the book, but it works. Kaya Porter left open for three off the screen. She's still ice cold from out there, and a foul on the rebound is going to send McLemore to the line with 7:10 remaining in this third quarter. That one's on Cox, her second. So some interesting foul trouble on both teams here. Renikoff has three. McCoy and Spieth both have three. Spalding has two, and Porter has two. McLemore also with two. A lot of players just right on the edge. And Tamira, the best free throw shooter the Auggies have to offer, but misses the first one. 7th in the conference at 76.5%. Would be the first Auggie into double figures if she can hit this one. And does. 35-33 with 7:10 to go in the third. Porter again trying to get it in, and they do come back to help out this time. 2 5-second calls of different varieties have gone against St. Thomas today. Trying to tie up Cox. McLemore begging for a travel. Hattelstad had the freedom of the baseline, but she takes the three. And again, the Auggies got caught arguing with the officials there and left a player open. Macy Hattelstad, not a great three-point shooter, but when you're that open. McLemore bumping into Masello as she takes the handoff. Auggies down 5. Wubin against Spalding, splits them, and threw up an awkward shot. Does battle for the rebound, and that'll be Augsburg ball on the tie-up. Intensity starting to pick up here, especially on these held balls. Krinsky comes back in, taking the place of Cox. Auggies will inbound with 8 to shoot. Looking for McLemore, and a quick one from the corner. Off the back iron, wasn't really square. Brazel wrestling it away from Jones. Big defensive possession for Augsburg here. 6:23 remaining in the third. Trying to keep it at 2 possessions. Inside they go to Spalding, and here comes the cavalry. Back out, the three-pointer from Brazel off the back iron. Battle for the board off Solseth, who never got both hands on it.
Spalding proving again why she's the reigning MIAC Player of the Year, with the vision, seeing the double team, and then distributing the ball all the way across court to the open shooter.
That was almost a triple team that time around. They throw over the top, and she's made some great catches in this game, but won't get that one. Asia Wilson's going to come in, taking the place of Wubin. 6:03 to go in the third. Augsburg in the bonus already in the third quarter. It only took them 2 minutes and 8 seconds to get the 5 fouls. Pardon me, 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Solseth as the Auggies run the weave. Trying to go up and under, a little step through against Porter. Tapped around, but into the hands of Brazel. Spalding fakes the three. Krinsky on the far side. Now it's Brazel from the corner. And another battle for the rebound. McLemore this time on the floor, able to take it away from Spalding. Wants to run the floor. And nothing there for the Auggies. Jones, though, with a step-out three. Those are the kind of shots that they've got to go down in the second half for Augsburg. Porter left alone, and you can't leave her that open for too long. Her first make of the day, 1 for 5, and it's an 8-point lead.
Eventually, the Auggies were going to pay. Porter has had other open looks from deep, and she hasn't cashed in until now.
This matches the largest lead of the day for St. Thomas. It was 15-7 at one point. McLemore looking for Wilson. They're lucky to keep that basketball. Masello traveled. That one not arguable. Media timeout maybe coming at a good time here for Augsburg as they're starting to slip away in this one. St. Thomas 41-33 with 4:44 remaining in the third quarter. Gives us a chance to remind you that Devani's is more than just pizza and hot hoagies. At Devani's they have the variety like calzones, salads, garlic cheese bread, breadsticks, boneless chicken wings, penne pasta, lasagna, desserts, 100 plus Coca-Cola freestyle beverage options and more. Customize your food to make it your very own Devani's favorite. And this game brought to you by Wells Fargo, proud supporter of Augsburg University. Wells Fargo, earning back your trust is our greatest priority. Established 1852 and reestablished 2018. Momentum certainly with St. Thomas for the moment. Augsburg is not buried by any means, but they've got to start getting some good things happening here in the next couple possessions.
It's funny, too, in a game that's 41-33, a low-scoring affair, it feels like just a couple of buckets make a world of difference. And it's not like St. Thomas has gone on this huge scoring run in the third quarter. All it takes is this little stretch where they're putting in baskets on a couple of possessions in a row, and all of a sudden momentum shifts to their side.
And I think one of the things that really plays in their favor, one of the things that makes St. Thomas so good is that every basket you get, you have to work your tail off for. Over the course of 40 minutes, that takes a toll on any team. The Auggies are a team that thrives on getting themselves easy looks through turnovers, through running that weave action, somebody popping open outside. That's tough to do against this St. Thomas team. They protect the ball, and they stay right on you.
And there are so many times, too, when you finally crack the lid off the hoop, get that bucket, and end your dry spell offensively. And in the blink of an eye, Hannah Spalding has busted down to the other end for a wide-open layup.
Happened a couple times today already as that one's tapped around, but St. Thomas keeps it with 11 on the shot clock. 4:23 to go in the third. Brazel from just inside the arc with one hand drops it in. It's the first double-digit lead of the day. Kobo is into the game for Augsburg. Jones driving, Kobo in the corner. Marcelo wants it inside. Instead they go outside for Wilson. Bumping, and it's knocked out of her hand by Hattelstad with 4 to shoot. Hattelstad doing a nice job staying in front of Aja Wilson. So need a quick one here, and McLemore will do the inbounding. Got to get it in. They do find Ariana Jones. They've got to get a shot. Has to step back and didn't have enough time to do that. So it's gut check time for Augsburg here late in this third quarter. Whole starting front court right now is on the bench with 3 fouls. Down 10, largest deficit of the day. They go right inside to Spalding. Dribbled it off her foot. Well defended. She's trying to argue that it's off Marcelo, but it's pretty clear. Wubin will come back into the game for Wilson. This game much more like the first matchup at Sime Elby Hall than it was the second one. McLemore dribbling into a crowd, getting out of it. Marcelo's the open player, but spun the wrong way and didn't see it. St. Thomas doesn't go after the basketball a lot, but they've knocked it loose twice on this possession. Jones, Spalding is on her. Has to go back to Marcelo. 5 now to shoot. Marcelo to the rim and finishes with the left hand. It's a big bucket for Augsburg. And again, how hard do they have to work just for that marginal good look?
That's a big-time take from Marcelo, though. Fearless all the way to the rim, and she has 7 points.
Nowhere to go for Brazel for the moment. Does get it inside. Double team along the baseline, but able to twist out of it is Mia Croxing, who's come in and made some nice things happen for St. Thomas today. Wubin is the cutter. Back outside for Marcelo. McLemore off the screen. Needed that one. 45-38. 13 for Tamira McLemore. 4th three-pointer of the day. Brazel kicks it out. Croxing. There with Brazel, Hattelstad, Krinsky, and Spalding for St. Thomas. 10 to shoot. 2 minutes to go, third quarter. Spalding inside. What a catch that was by Krinsky. The lead is 9. The Auggies need to find a way to cut into this before the fourth quarter begins. Need a few, maybe a 2 for 1, maybe 3 for 1 here, if you can. Foul called on Krinsky. That's going to be the third on Sarah Krinsky. We'll send McLemore to the line for 2. She's 1 of 2 from the stripe today.
Unlike most games for Augsburg, some of their best offense today has come from just going one-on-one. McLemore has been able to drive on most defenders she's been matched up with. Masello had that drive from earlier, who actually has 9 points for the Auggies at this point.
You see this from both St. Thomas teams, men's and women's. They don't play a lot of help defense. It's really one-on-one all the way, trusting their ability to stay in front of you. If you can break them down, you can get to the basket. Wholesale changes for St. Thomas here late in the third quarter, giving an extra breather for some of the starters. Rolland is in the game. Back into the game is Cox. Renikoff with the 3 fouls is in. Porter as well. And they floated off of Porter, and she lays it in. So they're trading buckets right now, and it's 49-40. McLemore. Cobo is the cutter, and a foul on Porter on the floor, and that'll be her third. And we'll send Cobo to the line. The Auggies have gotten some use out of that early bonus in this third quarter. Cobo gets the roll. Again, not a great free throw shooter this year in limited opportunities, Cobo, and she's been to the line a couple times today and made it work. These are big points for Augsburg. Anything they can get out of her, the 9 points they've gotten out of Masello today. With the foul trouble, others have stepped up. Big battle for that rebound, won by Rolland. 1:08 to go in the third. Porter thought about the 3. Wants to go inside for Rolland. Masello doing a nice job there. Cox with 8 to shoot. Porter got to take Cobo one-on-one. Cobo fell, and Porter gets the roll just as the shot clock expires.
You want to hustle here and go 2 for 1 if you can.
Wubin switched off. And once again, a block will be called. Who's it going to be on? That's the question. Rolland, Porter, and Brazel all in the area. It's going to go against Brazel, her second. Wubin with just 1 point today. In a game where you're trying to get places off the dribble, she's the player to do that for the most part for Augsburg. Camille McCoy in for Cobo. The last possession, St. Thomas will essentially have the last shot. 3 seconds difference, 3.8 between game and shot clock. Two for Kasia Wubin. Augsburg full court pressure, trying to maybe cause a turnover here, but they dribble out of it well. As Renikoff to the baseline, up and under, threw it through the basket the wrong direction, and now McCoy wants to push. The Auggies might be well served to hold for the last shot here. McLemore, though, spotting a gap, banks it in. 51-45 with 11 seconds remaining. Brazel hustles back the other direction. And Porter went right through McCoy, and that's going to be number 4 on Kaya Porter. McCoy standing her ground, and Porter gave her a bit of a forearm shiver, trying to gain that space. And that's big. The first player in this game with 4, not an Auggie, but Kaya Porter.
And what a swing this could be as we near the end of the third quarter. It was just a 10-point game. Not only is Porter headed to the bench with 4 fouls, you can make it a 4-point game here.
And now they have maybe a makeup call the other end. They're going to call Kasia Wubin for a moving screen. Trying to free up McLemore for that late shot. So there's 3.2 seconds remaining in the third, and the opportunity gone for Augsburg. Inbounding is Krogsang, who came in for Porter. Spalding also there. They get it to Brazel, who's able to float one up, and if that had gone, what a momentum changer that would have been, as the Auggies nearly beaten by the inbounds play. 51-45, though, after 3. The Auggies still right in this. They just need that run that's so hard to get against this St. Thomas team.
And they got a scent of it at the end of that quarter. It's tough to go to the bench and huddle up after getting such a momentum swing there and turning it into a game in which it felt like you have a chance. But still, I think Augsburg trailing by 6 is in a place where they feel like they can make a run at this.
Kaya Porter with the 4 fouls as well. She will not be out there to start the fourth quarter, and she has been, despite the fact that Spalding's had an amazing day, Porter has been tough to deal with. She's got 12 points, and she'd probably have more if she'd been hitting some open looks. So we'll see how long she stays on the bench for St. Thomas. And this game is brought to you by Wells Fargo, proud supporter of Augsburg University. Wells Fargo, earning back your trust is our greatest priority. Established 1852, reestablished 2018. And Jimmy John's is the #1 sandwich choice for Augsburg Athletics. They are located on the northwest corner of campus. Provide fast delivery. How fast, you ask? Freaky fast. Go to www.jimmyjohns.com to view their menu and hours. It's Jimmy John's. And whether it's across town or across country, let Minnesota Coach's quality equipment and experienced, courteous drivers provide you worry-free transportation. Overnight and extended trip options are available. Visit www.minnesotacoaches.com today to request a quote. Minnesota Coaches is the official bus provider for Augsburg Athletics.
I'm just looking at the stats here, Charlie. I'm surprised Augsburg does not have a steal in this basketball game. They're trailing in the turnover margin 11-6, and that's a really uncharacteristic game for them.
Yeah, they force teams into 22 turnovers per game, second in the MIAC. St. Thomas is just so good at handling the basketball, not allowing you those quick change turnovers, really, as Renikoff from the corner, a big bucket early in the fourth. She has not been much of a factor today, Lucia Renikoff. In fact, that's her first made 3 of the day, her first field goal of the day. Cameron Spiess back in with the 3 fouls, going right at Brazel, and the double team comes. Kicks it across for Wubin. Able to gather, trying to answer back, gets her own miss. Up into Spalding, and Spalding ends up on the deck, and she is slow to get up. Able to rejoin the play as Wubin lays it in. A tough basket for Kasia Wubin. And the Auggies string together enough stops to get back into this game. That's the question. Down 7. Trailed by as many as 10. Jones coming in for the steal, and Coxar just in time. And a grab is going to be called, I believe, on McLemore. It'll be her 3rd.
Great awareness by Jones, seeing that she had an opportunity at a steal and would have been the first one of the game for the Auggies.
Great fan support across the way. Everything you see there is Augie fans. Some of the other coaches are here. Frank Hagee, the football coach here. Mike Navarre sitting with Frank in the corner. Of course, one of Mike's players is in this game. Jen Masello, holding midfielder on the Augie soccer team in addition to her basketball work. 13 to shoot for St. Thomas. Krogseng, Spiess gambling, and Spalding with an open look, and McLemore may be lucky not to get number 4 there.
And at that place on the floor, I think you hold your ground if you're Cameron Spiess. You can let Spalding catch there.
McLemore inside. Couldn't make it against the double team. And the Auggies trying to pressure here as Brazel able to dribble out of it. Now Renikoff. Inside they go. Krogseng against Spiess, and there's the foul on Cameron Spiess, number 4. Spiess very frustrated with the officiating, trying to say that Krogseng is wrapping her with that off arm. I'm not sure if that was happening or not, but this is a big call against Augsburg. Krogseng, again, not a great free throw shooter, misses the first. Spiess in this game through 3 quarters was limited to 11 minutes. Krogseng misses them both. Quickly ahead for McLemore, stopping for 3. They're going to call that a long 2. She did have a toe on that line. 56-49, 7:47 to go. Kelsey Cox guarded by McLemore. Renikoff picked up by Wubin. Difficult cross-court pass. Spalding Masello chopping at the ball. That's off Spalding's foot, and it's Augsburg basketball. Great play by Masello with the double team help. Jen Masello, we've talked about it in some of the other St. Thomas matchups. This is a game for her to really shine, and she's come through in a big way today. Without her, Augsburg might be a little lost.
She's been outstanding, especially with the foul trouble to Cameron Spies. They needed big minutes out of Masello.
Lubin straight up and down Spalding. McCoy battling for it, but couldn't control it. That's Spalding's height coming into play on that one. Brazel the other way. Renikoff, Spalding wants it. Renikoff, though, with the defense sagging, just shoots over it. And it's a 10-point lead for St. Thomas with 6:56 to go. Jones hands off for McLemore. Foul by Cox and picks up number 3.
Foul is on number 12, Casey Cox. For a third personal foul, first team foul. Number 21, Sarah
Krinsky comes into the game for Cox. Ariana Jones off the inbound. McCoy stealing on Brazel. Now they're trying to switch back. McLemore a long 3, no good. McCoy battling for the board. Out of bounds, and they say off the Auggies. And the bench up on that one. Even Abby Jordan at the end of the bench, who still has a knee brace and using crutches, trying to pop up and down and argue the call.
2 of the 3 officials were really ahead of the play, too. The other 2 were at half quarter towards the other end. If you have a second official there to get another look at that, it's probably Augsburg basketball.
Krogsing and McCoy. Oh, hand check work on the wing. Now a foul called on Wubin, and the Auggies are really frustrated with the officiating in this game as Wubin slaps the floor. And Ted Reverso saw the arm that came out from Krogsing on the wing. He's pointing to the officials right now and talking about that. The foul on Wubin is her 3rd. That gives St. Thomas a fresh shot clock that Brazel trying to take advantage of. Spalding tied up by Jones. It'll be Augie basketball. Again, Ariana Jones just so good at making that play without fouling. The ball comes anywhere near her, she's able to get hands on it. So valuable as that second defender coming in underneath the rim. McLemore on the baseline, got past Krinsky, and just a little too heavy. Quick outlet, Renikoff back the other way. Masello back, and the foul called, and Masello's arm definitely came down there. That's the 4th team foul on the Auggies here in the 4th quarter. 5:45 remaining. And Renikoff 1 for 2 at the line today. 24 of 31, now 25 of 32 on the year. And Porter comes back in. The Auggies unable to close the gap with Porter on the bench. Now she comes in with the 4 fouls. Renikoff 1 out of 2. 11-point lead. Wubin quickly the other direction. Will get a foul called here against Spalding. That's going to be her 3rd.
And the first one that she's picked up in a while, because she had 2 in the first half. And going into the second half, we were talking about attacking Spalding. That's the first time where the Auggies have really taken it at her.
And picking or getting foul trouble on Spalding, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, not that actually easy because, as you said, she plays a conservative game. She doesn't swing the arms wildly. She's very good at staying straight up and down. She's 6'2" with really long arms, so she doesn't need to do much else. Inbounds to Renikoff. They were doubling Brazel. Jones now trying to get Renikoff in trouble. Throws to Spalding, and the bounce pass found Krinsky, and McLemore doing what she could, but Krinsky on a 2-on-1 down low takes it in.
Got lucky that she didn't get called for a travel there, too.
Wubin. McCoy battling with Porter. Instead, it's Ariana Jones from the outside, in and out. It's really Ariana's spot on the floor, that wing three. Seems like especially on the left side of the floor. Porter against McCoy. Now the switch. Porter just drills the free throw line jumper, and it's getting away from Augsburg here with 4:43 remaining, down 13. And a timeout called by Ted Reverso. They'll take a 30-second timeout, trying to devise some way to get back into this. I'll stay in the center of all the action at Courtyard Minneapolis downtown with the Bistro Bar and Media Pods, tech-enabled guest rooms, free Wi-Fi, and more. Courtyard helps you put more play in your stay. Visit them at courtyardminneapolis.com/Augsburg. Make room for a little fun at Courtyard. And owned and operated by an Augsburg alumnus, 360 WOW Inc. is the parent company to several up-and-coming brands in the Twin Cities. 1-800-GOT-JUNK, You Move Me, and Shack Shine. If you're looking for a great job on a great team with great pay that is near campus, learn more or apply online by visiting 360wowinc.com. Well, it's a tough road here. 4:38 remaining, down by the largest deficit of the game, 13 points. Really, for the Auggies, you got to just throw everything out there and hope you're hitting your shots, really.
And it's the same story as the first two games. Augsburg hung around in both of the first two matchups against the Tommies, and they expanded this lead in the fourth quarter. It was kind of the same story as the game went on. The lead gradually grew just little by little, and then finally in the fourth quarter they were able to strike, get it into double digits, and into this realm where it's in the teens.
And this Augsburg team has grown so much this year. The one thing maybe they need to grow in a little bit more is just consistent 40-minute game. They've been able to get away with some weaker stretches this year against everybody else because of the quality of play they're able to put up and the way they can score points quickly and take over games quickly. But then you get into a game against a top team like this, you need to have it at that level for 40 minutes. And if this game serves to help teach them that, even with a loss, there's a value in this one as McLemore steps back. Remember, this Augsburg team is all coming back next year with very few exceptions. And they'll grow from this even if they can't erase this 13-point deficit in the final 4:20. Cox lost the handle. Spiess diving to the floor. It's a held ball, and it's Tommy ball, but that Cameron Spiess effort never stops.
And she has everything in the tank right now, having only played about 15 minutes.
Renikoff coming in. Seemingly some confusion here, and that's the media timeout. So another stoppage here with 4:09 remaining gives us a chance to tell you should take a trip down memory lane at Memory Lanes and Flashback Cafe on 26th Avenue in South Minneapolis. 30 bowling lanes, live entertainment, great food, and 2 game rooms make for a great time. Visit www.memorylanesmpls.com for more information. And the Corner Bar is a proud sponsor of Augsburg Athletics, located in Minneapolis' historic Seven Corners district. The Corner Bar is the perfect place for great food, outstanding pizza, and the almost world-famous Joey Wings. And there's tons of screens, so you won't miss a second of the action. Visit the Corner.bar for more information on the Corner Bar. Give you some updates from around the conference and some of the other sports going on. Men's hockey, St. John's beat St. Thomas 4-1. Augsburg would be playing tonight to meet them in the MIAC championship game next week. They face St. Mary's at 7 o'clock tonight. And in the women's hockey game going on right now, St. Thomas beat Gustavus 4-0 earlier today. Trying to get some stats from this Augsburg-Hamlin game that's going on over at the Tria rink right now. Tom Witchen, Alex Westhead, I believe, are both over there. And at the end of the second period, no score. Actually, just the start of the second period, pardon me, in that game. No score. 7-7 in period number 1. The Auggies and the Pipers. So tune into that one right after you're done with this one here. 64-51, 4:09 remaining. St. Thomas in the lead, bidding for its 8th consecutive MIAC Tournament Championship as Renikoff lost it out of bounds. And St. Thomas's turnovers have been like that. They're turnovers that allow them to get back and set up the defense. No transition buckets for Augsburg today. And they're usually worth about 13 to 15 transition points per game. And If they have that, it's a tie ball game. But St. Thomas has done a great job taking that away as McLemore, the feed from Spiess. A little goalie work done there by Spalding as we referenced some hockey there. Porter spinning away from McLemore. Spiess to help. Porter somehow keeping that pivot foot alive. And then it's 3 seconds. Number 9 in terms of turnovers for St. Thomas. Augsburg has 11. Prinsky back into the game along with Brazel for St. Thomas. St. Thomas has done such a nice job this year of taking away Ariana Jones' ability as a distributor. Just 1 assist. She hasn't had many in the 3 games this year against the Tommies. Foul called on Cox. That'll be her 4th. It is the 3rd against St. Thomas with 3:13 left. Looking for a quick one for Asia Wilson, but Renikoff stays right with her. Second time around. In and out for Wilson, and Wubin battling for the board. Tried to throw it inside, and Porter got a hand on it. And Brazel wants the home run, knocked away into the arms of Wubin, and now the Auggies want the quick change. Back the other way comes Jones. Porter is the defender there. McLemore stopping and popping, and the Auggies throwing up some hopeful three-pointers here, trying to shoot their way back into it, but running out of time. 2:39 left.
You could see McLemore put some extra oomph into that one, slightly out of her range.
Inside Spalding, and the foul is going to be on Asia Wilson.
That's an underrated foul from Wilson. Hitting Spalding really hard when she had an easy 2 points. It doesn't get any easier that for Spalding. Send her to the line and see if she can hit them instead.
Ted Reverso will take the 30-second timeout. And again, if this result holds, St. Thomas, who was going to the NCAA tournament anyway, is guaranteed in. Consensus being, it's even in the game program today that the loser of this game probably going to the NCAA tournament. And I think if the Auggies were held out, they'd have a pretty good beef with the committee for keeping them out. But you don't give yourself the free pass. You have to kind of live at the whims of those who have to select the NCAA Division III tournament, which is an unenviable job. Teams coast to coast, not a ton of media coverage to help you out.
Yeah, and I just want to throw this out there. I don't know exactly how the selection process works, but potentially St. Thomas being the number 3 team in the country, might they be able to host a regional, and potentially would Augsburg be in that same region?
Certainly
and
seems
lead to
possible.
a 4th matchup here? I don't know how it works, to be honest, but it seems feasible.
And Spalding does miss the first free throw. For reference, the Augie men who won the tournament last year were sent to Augustana with St. John's in the tournament and also St. Olaf. So there's no guarantees. They do try to keep everybody as close to home as possible because travel budget's a D3. 65-51. This is the largest lead of the day for St. Thomas. A game that's been played close all day long, and Asia Wilson still can't buy one for the Auggies, who have really gone cold from the field here in the 4th quarter. Just 6 points on the board in the 4th. Foul called on Wubin. That's her 4th, and that will send Renikoff to the free throw line. Again, a frustrating day for Augsburg. Just trying to get anything done against this St. Thomas team, but give credit to St. Thomas. This is a team that is hunting down its 74th consecutive MIAC win. Have to go back 3 years and a month when they last lost to a team in this conference. They've been to Sweet 16s recently. They have been to Final Fours recently. Good measuring stick, as I said, for an Augsburg program that is going to look very similar next year as Asia Wilson steps back for a deep 3, and they still can't hit one here in the 4th. Be a little bit different looking St. Thomas team next year. No Lucia Renikoff. No Hannah Spalding, of course. Bobby Brendifer also a senior. And Kylie Brazel a senior. But They've got some good players waiting behind them as Porter tries to go behind the back. She'll be back next year. Jones to the floor, battling with Brazel. Timeout called from the bench by Ruth Sin. Ruth Sin in her time here at St. Thomas, 324 and 80 coming into today. Some eye-popping wins and losses numbers out of this program, and they set the high bar. Everybody else in the MIAC has to chase that bar that St. Thomas sets, and Augsburg this year very much the closest of anybody in this conference, having beaten everybody else twice, sometimes 3 times. Getting some notes from Don Stoner, just helping us out with this D3 selection process. He knows more about it than maybe anybody. Mm-hmm. The NCAA doesn't want to have teams play each other in the first round, but I think what you might have been saying is maybe a second round matchup if they were hosting 2 games.
Well, the way that just looking at prior tournaments, you can tell that teams in the same region of the country play in the same kind of bracket. So you'd think that they'd be in the same 16 bunch, but certainly not in the first round. You wouldn't have a matchup of teams in the same conference.
Renikoff somehow called timeout while all that was going on. And St. Thomas, Don says, you do have to bid for that first round, hosting those. And he says St. Thomas very likely to host games next weekend. If the Auggies somehow did play here, we would probably be there right along with them and try, of course.
I'd hope so.
67-51 with 1:22 remaining here in the MIAC title game.
The other thing is I don't think Augsburg wants to play St. Thomas in the first round.
I don't think anybody wants to play St. Thomas.
You'd hope that you don't get that matchup if you're Ted Reverso.
Ted has a great sense of humor about this thing, and he was interviewed before the first meeting with St. Thomas this year about the long winning streaks that St. Thomas has over Augsburg. The all-time series is 74-4, St. Thomas and Augsburg. He said, we got them right where we want them. That's a shot clock violation. Great idea by St. Thomas, but Spalding didn't get it off in time. And Ted is he's good with the quips like that. He's got a quick wit down there. Kasia Wubin back the other direction to the baseline. And once again, the rim protector there enough to put her off, and Wubin can't hit either one. Ted's very much one of those coaches that he talks to you. You know that what he says and what he's thinking about this game, he's not necessarily going to share everything with you. He's got his plan as St. Thomas hits the bucket. And I mean that as a compliment to Ted. He's a very smart basketball man, of course, having done what he did here at St. Thomas. Maybe even more impressive how he's built up this Augsburg program over the last half decade.
Yeah, a short period of time to turn a program upward.
Jones steps back and drops one in. First bucket in a long time for the Auggies. They trail by 15, 69-54. This will be the third matchup this year. The first 2 were 15-point margins in games that, like you said, the Auggies were just sort of trying to stay in it the entire game. And it's just a hard way to play basketball when you're just on the edge of double-digit deficits, having to fight back into it, especially against a team like St. Thomas that has that trump card inside of Spalding. Every time the things have gotten close, you said it earlier, they've gone to her.
And St. Thomas is so consistent that you point out they can go to Spalding anytime they feel like they're in trouble and be confident that over the course of 2 possessions, they're going to get at least 1 bucket. So you're not stringing together 6-0, 8-0, 10-0 runs against St. Thomas. It's just not feasible with Spalding on the floor. It's really hard to do. And so you have to play toe-to-toe with them for 40 minutes and hope that at the end you come out on top by just a couple points.
Spalding at 32 and 21 when these two teams met 2 weeks ago, points and rebounds. Today, 25 and 16. She had most of that in the first half. Porter with 14 points. Renikoff, despite a very slow start, squeezed her way to 10 points today. McLemore once again leading the Auggies. She has 19. Jen Masello, their second leading scorer, with 9. And Augsburg was going to win this game. They needed that to not necessarily be the case. They needed those secondary scorers that are used to being in that role to put up bigger numbers. But again, very much easier said than done against St. Thomas. 34 seconds is what remains. 1 shot clock is left, and the Auggies will pressure Kaya Porter in the backcourt. Foul is called on McLemore. So Porter will head to the free throw line with 30 seconds remaining. You'd think Porter, mentioning this St. Thomas free throw discrepancy between Spalding and everybody else. Porter's an inside-out player, but she's only attempted 24 all season long. Mentioned there's only 2 players that have attempted close to 40. The second on the team is Kylie Brazel, 39. McLemore comes out, replaced by Zielsdorf, and an ovation from the fans on the far side. Second one good from Porter. Selena Lohr will come in to take the place of Ariana Jones. She went by Zielsdorf, who just came in. Of course, you can't do that. You actually have to play some time, and they let that one roll too far, did Selena Lohr. Into the arms of Brazel, and a foul called on Asia Wilson. 71-54 game. Send Brazel to the free throw line. Going back to that substitution, Lohr and Zielsdorf ran by each other, so they announced that Lohr was coming on for Zielsdorf when she was coming on for Jones. And, of course, if you come in, you have to play at least a second or you can't come out. So Zielsdorf did stay on. Kaylee Brazel with 2 at the line, and it's a 19-point game. And, again, this one was a lot closer than this all day long. Just it's gotten away from Augsburg late as Wilson misses one last one. St. Thomas can dribble it out here for their 8th consecutive MIAC tournament title. The Auggies' run in this MIAC tournament ends here, but what a season still for this Augsburg team. As Brazel dribbles out the final seconds, 73-54 is the final. And once again, Augsburg awaits their fate. You think they've done enough at 22-5, 16-2 in the MIAC in the regular season, and a lot of good wins, and every one of their losses against a top caliber team, 3 of them against this St. Thomas team that's among the top 5 in the country.
Exactly. St. Thomas ranked number 3 in the country. You lose 3 of your 5 games to them. Nothing hurt. In fact, just staying within 15 points or so makes a mark that you're a quality team, a team that probably belongs in the tournament. And the other 2 coming against the likes of teams that are either ranked or receiving votes in that D3hoops.com poll. You have quality wins. You beat everyone else in the MIAC and every other single conference game you played. There are so many things you can point to if you're Ted Reverso.
Great region record, of course,
Yeah.
which makes a difference for that selection for Division III. So they'll find out soon. Hopefully they'll be playing next weekend in the NCAA tournament. St. Thomas will, once again, as they win this tournament for the 8th consecutive year, and they'll be presented with the trophy at midcourt. 73-54 the final. And again, this is just the start of the events for Augsburg today. The hockey game is going on right now. Hop on over with Tom Witchin. That game going on at the Trier rink as we speak. Auggies have actually given up a couple early in the second period. It's now 3-0 Hamlin, so they'll need your help over there. Augie men's hockey is tonight, and of course the Augie men's basketball team trying to do it again as the 4 seed as they go up to St. John's at 7 o'clock tonight. So plenty to keep you here on the game portals on athletics.augsburg.edu and on Augie game day and game nights. We're just the start, and hopefully you're going to enjoy some more because what a big day for Augie sports.
Yeah, I hope the folks at home didn't have to buy extra screens just for this Saturday, but
picture in picture in picture.
Today.
That's what you need.
There you go, split screen.
73-54 the final here. We will wrap it up with a fantastic ride for this Augie women's basketball team, and we can only hope it is not over yet as they potentially have some NCAA tournament play coming up next week. St. Thomas wins the MIAC tournament, 73-54 over Augsburg. For Jason Doro and Glenn Thompson running things here at Master Controls next to us at St. Thomas, I'm Charlie Beatty saying so long. Thanks for tuning in all year long here on Augie Game Day.